I'm Danielle, and I recently just made a big job transition. It was definitely an emotional roller coaster, and you know, I think it's worth giving you a little recap. So here's what happened. In 6 weeks, I will be officially switching jobs. I knew that the types of things that I was doing were not in my area of strength. I really missed working with students. I've decided to take my career in a different direction.
Very exciting for you.
Thanks. I'm gonna miss you guys a lot. And I'm just trying to consider, like, hey, what if things do work out, and not let my doubts take the wheel. This is truly a leap of faith, and I'm struggling to give up this very certain, very defined path for something that has a lot of unknowns to it. What am I doing? What am I doing? I'm actually feeling pretty good despite all of the absolute chaos. I kind of just feel like things might be okay. At a certain point, I just was like tired of worrying. I just decided to trust life and say, hey, I'm gonna listen to my gut on this. And luckily, to my surprise, because I honestly didn't expect things to work out at that point, there was a method to this madness. There was a reason that I continued down this path. I'm going to be making equal to more than what I was making at my old job, with much less stress, with much more alignment with what I want to be doing. And I was on edge thinking that things would go wrong, but they're actually working out. So I'm so happy to say that a ton of really good things have happened since I've made this decision and committed to it. And even though I didn't see this coming, I couldn't have anticipated that things were actually gonna work out, because I was just like so convinced that things were gonna crash and burn for some reason. So the fact that good things continue to happen and this new setup of my life is working so much better for me is like such a relief. So I just wanna share what my life looks like now, how I was really able to make this transition. And because I can say that what my work life looks like now is so much more flexible, I feel such a sense of freedom that I didn't feel just a few weeks before, that I want to share. Going from what was really honestly a stressful 8-to-5 job that wasn't exactly a fit for me, even though I loved the team and it was a good opportunity, I was learning, but to take this leap of faith in my career and actually have it work out and be really happy right now is just so exciting to me. So I want to share the behind the scenes of what my work life looks like now and how I actually got here. Hey, it's Danielle from the future. I'm just popping in here real quick to say that the first half of this video is really focused on my experience with making this transition to a more flexible work schedule. But if you want more freedom and flexibility in your work schedule, and you just want 4 very practical routes that you can go in order to get that, I do talk about that at the end, so stick around or skip forward if you really want to see that right now, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. So it's Monday morning right now, and this is my second full week of my new work life, and I am really happy to say that I didn't get the Sunday scaries, the Sunday blues. I was excited for the week, and I haven't felt that way in a long time just because I've been so busy and so stressed and in a situation that wasn't a fit for me. And now I'm just excited about where I am, and I can't wait to share more about how I got here and what life is looking like right now and some of the really good things that have happened from my own efforts or just through circumstance and things falling into place. And honestly, the best part about being in this position right now is that I know that, if you're in a stressful 8-to-5 or 9-to-5 and you're not happy, or it's not a fit for you, or you're so stressed out, that there is a way out of that, and there's a way to be in a much more flexible and free position in what you're doing and what you want to be doing in your work life. There's a way to figure that out if you have no idea what that looks like. So we are headed into a good week and I'm excited to share. So I'm just sitting down at my desk here to kind of plan out my day and look at what's coming up. And for some context, I went from a sales position at a local small business. It was a co-working space and entrepreneurial community, to now my main gig is helping high school students get into college, which I actually did in the past, and I'm kind of coming back at a new level with that. And I also do strengths assessments to see if someone's a good fit for a job as kind of like a side gig, so that's expanding. I'm also going through a training right now as part of the helping students piece of what I'm doing, where I'm getting trained in a certain workshop style. That's what I got going on. So my day today is I'm gonna send out some emails for my main job. I'm gonna meet with my boss. I have a strengths assessment. I have to go through a bunch of training videos, and then I have like a call for my training, and then I'm meeting up with someone from my former team to catch up. So that is what my day looks like. To me, this is like perfect because it has a lot of variety in it, and I am excited about everything I'm doing. And yeah, this is what we're looking at today. So it's the next day, and it's interesting because like thinking about yesterday, I mean, like you saw there was a lot going on. It was like one thing after the other, you know, calls, training, stuff like that. But I kind of feel like there's such a difference in how it feels to like go through a busy day where you enjoy everything. There's kind of a flow from one thing to the next. You're not like racing around like a chicken with your head cut off or anything like that. It's all stuff that's like interesting to you, you're engaged in, you're kind of like in a flow. When that happens, I notice that at the end of the day, I don't feel depleted. Like I might be like tired and ready for bed, like when the time rolls around, but I'm not exhausted and drained and depleted. And I'm finding that really interesting. I will say that my schedule doesn't feel as intense as, you know, when I was at my job recently. And that is mostly because I had like constant interruptions, and it was like constant emails, constant calls, and it was like really hard to keep up with, along with project work and meetings and everything like that. Like it just honestly felt unmanageable, versus this feels like very manageable. And again, there's like flow and everything. And I really just noticed such a difference in my energy at the end of the day and like how I feel. So I'm enjoying that aspect because I've been honestly drained for months. And, you know, in the second week, it's now Tuesday, in the second week of my new work schedule, I'm like just feeling so much different. So I'm about to go into the co-working space that I used to work at, just to get out of the house and say hello to people and everything and just get a couple things done. And then I have lunch with an old coworker and meeting up with a friend later. And then I have a call later tonight. So yeah, just trying to like mix personal and professional in a way that like makes sense and works with my schedule and takes advantage of honestly the freedom and flexibility that I have. So that's kind of just what I'm noticing and what I'm enjoying. And yeah, it's nice to have energy. Good morning. I've had a really nice morning so far. I slept until 8, which was beautiful, and I really needed it, and I feel so rested now. And yeah, I feel very thankful for a flexible schedule, because before I had to be in at 8 every single day, like not virtually, like in there. So, you know, on the days where you didn't sleep well, it's tough. So very nice to have a flexible schedule. And then I got to start my morning with creativity. So I filmed a video. If you want to see it, it is a career pep talk. I'll link it. And I was editing it and my computer froze. If you have a Mac, a little color wheel of death came up. But it's just like really nice to have a flexible schedule. Some people like, they want to have the 8 to 5, 9 to 5 and have like those regular working hours, whatever, and then have like the after hours be social time. But like, I'd rather have variety and flexibility and like the freedom to be able to like work on a project of my own in the morning. And then I have a class tonight that I'm teaching from 7:30 to 9 or co-teaching with my boss. So I like that. Like this works for me and I feel really lucky and I feel so much freedom and I am pretty happy about it. And like, while we're on the note of freedom and flexibility in your work life, I have a pretty open day today and I've got a bunch of stuff I want to do, but it's like nice to sort of like have that flexibility and be able to like manage my own tasks and schedule, because the nature of my old job, like being in sales, I was like constantly needed somewhere, constantly interrupted. And so the only like open time I had were like some Fridays every once in a while I had open. And you know what I would do on those days? This is terrible. I would still get interrupted because people were like always calling and stuff and I got a bunch of emails, but like on the days that I had like heads down time, I barely even got to work on like projects and kind of proactive stuff. I would be going through emails all day long, catching up. I would be sending email follow-ups. I would be like archiving old stuff. I would be like checking back in on certain things and clearing out my inbox. And I got so many freaking emails all the time, like 50 to 100 each day. And all of those are like people asking me for things or asking me to do things for them. And it was a lot. And so to know that like my heads down Fridays once every 2, 3, 4 weeks were like literally emails all day long, like that's disgusting. And I get so many fewer emails now, like, and it's amazing. And I feel like, honestly, that's like one of the things I'm most happy about right now is like, I barely get any emails. Like I have calls that I have and like working with high school students, they hate emails, which is kind of perfect. So yeah, it's fantastic. And having open free time and feeling uninterrupted and being able to like really focus and being able to like start my day with creativity. Like I said, I just feel I feel so much better and I feel so lucky and I'm really happy. And I can see in the other room that my computer is unfrozen now, so I'm gonna go back to editing that video and yeah, definitely check it out. I'm going to visit the fam. This is actually really exciting and I'll tell you why. I used to work virtually when I worked for this woman in the program helping high school students get into college, which I'm now working for again. And I could go visit my family 4 hours away and stay there for a week or whatever and work from their house and spend more time with them. And the past 2 years that I've had this 8 to 5, I've not been able to work virtually because I managed one of the properties, or did manage. I had to go in every day and open it, make sure everything was good and all of the people there had what they needed, along with everything else with the like sales aspect of that job. And now I work virtually again. So I am headed there. It's Friday morning. I'm gonna be there all weekend and then I'm gonna work from there on Monday and then head back on Tuesday. And I'm just really excited because I am back to a flexible schedule, which I have been like craving. And obviously it's made me very happy this week. So I am just in the best mood and it's gonna be a good weekend. Okay, so I'm just stopped at a rest stop, but I was like about to go to the rest stop before, and then like 5 cops zoomed past and around me and like went down that rest area entrance, and I was like, and like just decided to continue driving past it, and I look, and then there was like another 5 cops like speeding up, and I look and some dude next to a truck is getting tackled, so I'm pretty sure I just witnessed a drug bust, but I went to the next rest area, and here I am. Little update on yesterday. I had such a good day yesterday. I woke up pretty early, got some things heads down on the computer, I went into the co-working space, aka where I used to work and now am a member. And I saw my old coworkers and I met up with one of my contacts there, and he was giving me some really cool kind of business advice with like the strengths assessments that I'm doing, like in doing them independently, which I've done a little bit and I actually did with them, which is cool. They were like my first private client, and I was like so inspired by that conversation. I was like scribbling a bunch of notes and just really excited about what's possible there. And then I had like a lunch/exit interview with two of my coworkers, the CEO and someone else from the team, and that was really nice. They were like asking me for input on things and like feedback about the business and about like sales, since that was my role. And then got some more work done in the afternoon, co-taught a class with my boss working with high school students, and then did a little like happy hour with my former coworkers, and it was kind of like a little farewell party. So a very like active and social day yesterday, which I loved. It was interesting because like the day before I was like heads down all day, and it was kind of draining because I'm definitely an extrovert, but like I got a lot done and everything. And then yesterday was super social and I was like great, but also exhausting. And I feel like it's interesting now that I have the freedom to have like a little bit more, a little bit less like social interaction, like what's that balance for me? And I mean, I keep talking about like this whole time about how great freedom is. And I feel like I'm definitely the kind of person who absolutely loves freedom. It's like one of my top priorities and values. And at the same time, I also really value like growing and getting out of my comfort zone. I feel like with freedom, you can totally just like sink into your comfort zone, because if you're experiencing freedom, you're like free from a lot of like pressures and expectations of other people, assumingly. And that could easily turn into like living a very comfortable life, but not one where you're stretching yourself and growing. So like I'm just learning how to really enjoy like the freedom and flexibility that I have in my work schedule now, while also finding like what really brings up my energy and drives me to get outside of my comfort zone and continue to learn and grow and stretch myself. So that is kind of some of my realizations from yesterday. So I'm gonna keep driving to go see my family. I think I'm like an hour and a half away, and that's what we got going on.
As you could tell, I was so pumped to visit my family for the weekend. Honestly, we could not have asked for better weather, and it was sunny and warm, and we went on some beautiful hikes, saw gorgeous waterfalls, and it was so perfect. I spent time with my little brother, who thinks he's the greatest thing since sliced bread because he's a teenager. And I went downtown and had an amazing dinner, which was almost as good as this incredible sunset that I saw on the way home. Oh my God. And then here I am kicking off my workday on Monday from my family's house, which is honestly the flexibility that I have been waiting for. Hallelujah.
So that is what my life is looking like right now. It is actually Friday on my third week, and I'm happy to say I am still not stressed. It's fantastic. But let's talk about some clear options for you, because I think there's 4 specific routes that you can actually go if you're looking for how to find flexible work. So here are the 4 options, and I'll talk about the positives and negatives of each. 1, you could get a fully remote or virtual job. 2, you could work for a startup or small business. 3, you could do all gigs. Or 4, you could start your own business. The one caveat that I'll add is with each of these, I do think that you really need to enjoy the work in order to really feel a sense of freedom. So whether it's really fulfilling to you, or it's just generally a topic that you're really interested in, or you're learning a ton in an area that you really want to pursue in the future, whatever that looks like for you, just make sure that it's something that's interesting and enjoyable to you, because that's really gonna be a big piece in giving you that sense of freedom. Like without that, my flexible schedule would mean nothing to me, because I'd still probably be stressed or miserable. So let's start with the remote/virtual job. I think the biggest positive here is that there are growing options, meaning that people are realizing more and more, companies are realizing that this is important to people and it's actually a very viable option for them. And the other piece to this is that you don't have to be in the city where the job is offered. You could potentially apply to something that's like in Seattle if you're in New York, or vice versa, or anywhere in the country, or you could be somewhere that's
kind of in the middle of nowhere as long as you have a strong internet connection, and apply to something in a big company in a big city. And that's a really cool option now that things are changing. So if you're searching for virtual or remote work around the country, let's say, you're gonna find a good amount of options versus just what's near you. But on the flip side of that, I think a negative here is that those jobs are more competitive because people from just about anywhere can apply to those positions. So that's something to consider, but don't let it hold you back. The other piece that you should consider that's maybe more of a negative, if this is something that's particular to your personality, if you're the kind of person who loves to go to the happy hour with your team, it might not make sense to have a team that is completely spread out and you're just kind of stuck in your house or apartment. So if you're the kind of person that really wants to bond with your team, you want to meet them in person, you want to be able to kind of hang out or have more of those casual conversations in the, office or workspace, that may not be the best option for you, and maybe consider one of the other 3 options that I'm about to share. The next option to consider would be working for a startup or a small business. These folks tend to be more, progressive and not traditional in the way that they think about work and work schedules. So that's a big piece of being able to find that flexible work and find managers who will flex to what you've got going on in your life or when and how you work best. And that's kind of a cool thing. And I will say there's different pluses and minuses to the startup world, more of that fast-paced, high-growth environment versus the small business that's maybe more of that close-knit team, slow and steady growth. That's a very short summary. I definitely can make a video where I talk about the differences there, but we're kind of lumping them together for the sake of this conversation about flexible work. What I will say, especially around the startup option, is that a negative can be that you may actually be working a lot of hours if the company is in that high growth stage and they're really, pushing to get to that next level or get investment. Wherever they're at, it might actually be pretty intense. So you want to kind of consider the stage of the business when you're looking at options if you really want that flexibility. Now, you might just be like a night owl and that's what you're looking for is the option to be able to work late hours, and that might totally be the case even if you're in that high growth startup. So these are all things to consider. One other thing that I'll add, just like a personality piece with this one, is if you're considering working for a startup or small business and maybe you don't have a ton of experience in that space, my biggest piece of advice is you want to make sure that you're someone who is good with ambiguity. Meaning if someone's like, hey, will you work on this, and does not give you a specific structure or all the details, you'll be able to be the kind of person who will search for those details, figure it out, make structure out of total ambiguity, and figure out what you're doing even if you're not given all the pieces, because that's honestly something that I actually enjoy, and that's why I feel like I mesh really well with the startup and small business environment. So something to consider with what you're looking for and what your personality and work style looks like. Let's talk about the third option, which is living the gig life. So I did this 3 years ago, doing completely gig work, and I will say it definitely has its very clear benefits and drawbacks. By the way, if you want to see exactly what this looked like, I did make a video called I Have 5 Jobs, and I will link it here so that you can check it out if you're curious, if you're interested in the gig life, or just want to see what that actually looked like. The biggest benefits with doing all gig work would be that you get a ton of variety, and there's maybe a couple of reasons that you might want this. One is because you have different interests that you feel like aren't going to be fulfilled by one job. Maybe you're super interested in graphic design and working with different clients, but at the same time you love animals and you just want like another job that purely has to do with animals. You don't want to combine these two things because that doesn't totally make sense in fulfilling what you're looking for. So you keep them separate, you do different gigs, and both of those interests are met. And the second reason you might want that sense of variety is simply because you are still exploring. You're figuring out what you like, you're figuring out what you want to do in your future. This is a perfect way to do that. So you get a lot of variety when you're living the gig life. But like I said, doing all gigs does have its negatives. What I will say is you could potentially risk having less freedom and flexibility if you really overschedule yourself and take on way too much. And a part of this is actually that there's time that goes into coordination. So actually scheduling everything, making sure that you're, booking things properly, nothing overlaps. That actually does take a lot of time, as well as just the transition time of if you have to get from one location to another, or even like mentally transition transition from one gig to the next, that's something to really think about. Another video I'll mention that could be really helpful is I sat down with my best friend who is currently working all gigs, and then like I said, 3 years ago I was doing all gigs, and we just have an honest and open conversation about what it's really like, what those benefits and drawbacks are, and go way more in depth. So definitely check that out if you are interested in finding out a little more. And the fourth option I mentioned is starting your own business. This is the clearest path to freedom and flexibility in your schedule in the long term, and you can focus on something that you're passionate about, that you're interested in, and really choose the direction you're going based on that. But I will say a negative here is I think in the short term, you may not experience that freedom and flexibility depending on what you're doing, depending on what business it is and what sort of style it is of product, service, but you are building towards that freedom and flexibility, even if you're not experiencing it as you're in that initial building phase. So that's kind of something to think about if you want freedom and flexibility in the long term, but you're willing to make some, sacrifices in the short term. That could be a really good option for you. You may know right off the bat whether this is something that you're interested in, or if you're like, that never will be me, but there's plenty of materials, resources, videos, articles out there that can help you understand if you're the type of person that would want to start your own business and if entrepreneurship is for you. But either way, in the meantime, you've got plenty of options here. If you're looking for flexibility and freedom in your schedule, you can get a remote or virtual job, you can work for a startup or small business, you can live the gig life, do a bunch of different gigs, or you can start your own business like we just talked about. So consider any of those options, do a little research, do a little reflection, and see if you're really looking for more flexibility and freedom in your work life, which of those really clicks with what you're interested in, what you really want to do, how your personality works, and what you want in your future. And we will go ahead and leave it at that. Thank you so much for watching this video. If this topic of a flexible work schedule is interesting or attractive to you, then definitely click like and I can chat more about it, and subscribe so that you see all the upcoming videos popping up in your feed. I've got some interesting ones in the works, so you'll definitely want to see those. And I hope that you have a wonderful day. Bye!